I first saw her at the Daily Grind, that trendy coffee shop in downtown Manhattan. She sat by the window, golden morning light dancing across her sketchbook. I was rushing, as usual, late for another board meeting. That's when fate decided to play its hand. My coffee cup slipped, sending a cascade of hot liquid across her pristine white pages. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," I exclaimed, grabbing napkins frantically. She looked up, and those bright green eyes caught me off guard. Instead of anger, I saw amusement dancing in them. "Well," she laughed, "I guess my sketches needed some coffee stains for authenticity." Her name was Sarah Miller, and she was 24. I was Michael Anderson, 40, divorced, and CEO of a tech startup. In that moment, I didn't see the 16-year age gap. I just saw her smile. "Let me buy you another coffee," I offered, "and maybe some new art supplies?" She tilted her head, studying me with those captivating eyes. "How about just the coffee?" she suggested. "I'm Sarah." That coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into dinner. And dinner turned into the most exhilarating 6 months of my life. Sarah was everything I wasn't: spontaneous, artistic, full of dreams. Where I saw spreadsheets, she saw possibilities. Where I calculated risks, she embraced chances. Her apartment was a riot of colors, canvases everywhere. Mine was minimalist, chrome and glass, overlooking Central Park. But somehow we fit. She'd drag me to obscure art galleries in Brooklyn. I'd take her to five-star restaurants she'd never tried. We were from different worlds, but that made it exciting. My board members raised eyebrows when I started leaving meetings on time. My friend Tom warned me about the age difference. "She's barely older than your car, Mike," he joked. But I didn't care. For the first time since my divorce, I felt alive. Sarah moved in after 3 months. Her paintings brightened my stark walls. Her laughter filled the empty spaces. Even my housekeeper, Maria, approved. "She brings light, Mr. Anderson," she said one morning. And she did. Sarah transformed my structured world into something vibrant. I proposed on a random Tuesday. No fancy restaurant, no elaborate plans. Just us sitting on my balcony. She was painting the sunset, hair messy, wearing my old Harvard t-shirt. "Marry me," I said simply. She turned, brush still in hand, paint smudged on her cheek. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I'm kind of a mess." I pulled her close, not caring about the paint staining my suit. "You're my kind of mess." The wedding was small but perfect. Sarah designed everything herself. Her friends, Ashley, Brittany, and Katie, were bridesmaids. They were all her age, all single, all looking at me with mixed curiosity and skepticism. But Sarah beamed as she walked down the aisle. She wore a vintage dress she'd found in a thrift store. My mother later told me it probably cost less than her own shoes. I thought Sarah had never looked more beautiful. The first few months were bliss. Sarah turned our home into an art studio. I learned to love the smell of paint. She learned to appreciate fine wine. We traveled Paris, Rome, Barcelona. She sketched while I handled business calls. It worked somehow, until it didn't. The first sign was so subtle I almost missed it. Sarah started spending more time on her phone. She'd scroll through Instagram for hours. Pictures of her friends traveling the world. Ashley backpacking through Thailand. Brittany at music festivals in California. Katie starting her own fashion blog. I'd catch Sarah staring at these images, something wistful in her eyes. "We could travel more," I offered one evening. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It's not the same," she said softly. I didn't understand then. My business was growing. Investors were interested. I was working longer hours again. Sarah's art started changing. Darker colors, sharper lines. The light pieces she used to create disappeared. She spent more time with her friends. Girls' nights became more frequent. She'd come home later and later. I told myself it was normal. She was young, after all. Then came Katie's birthday party. It's just dinner, Sarah said, dressing up. I noticed she put more effort into her appearance than usual. Don't wait up, she added, kissing my cheek. That was new. She usually wanted me to wait up. I tried to focus on work, but something felt off. Her texts became shorter as the night progressed. Then they stopped completely. At 2 a.m., I called, straight to voicemail. At 3 a.m., I paced our living room. At 4 a.m., she stumbled in. Her dress was wrinkled. Her eyes were bright with alcohol and something else. Michael, she giggled, you didn't have to wait up. I helped her to bed, trying to ignore the unfamiliar cologne I smelled. The next morning, over coffee and aspirin, she dropped the bomb. I think we should try an open marriage. I nearly choked on my coffee. What? She leaned forward, suddenly animated. Just for a month, she said quickly, like an experiment. An experiment, I repeated flatly. She nodded eagerly. Ashley knows this couple who tried it, she continued. It saved their marriage. Our marriage needs saving. She backtracked quickly. No. It's just, I feel like I'm missing out sometimes. Those words hit hard. Missing out on what exactly? She struggled to find the words. Just experiences. Freedom. Being young. I set my coffee down carefully. And you think sleeping with other people will help? She flinched at my direct words. It's not just about that, she protested. It's about independence. I studied her face, this young woman I'd married. Had I been fooling myself all along? What brought this on, Sarah? She bit her lip. Nothing specific. I've just been thinking. About the guy from the CL. Of last night? Her eyes widened. How did you? Cologne, I said simply. Not your usual crowd. She had the grace to look embarrassed. His name is James, she admitted, but nothing happened. Yet, I added quietly. She didn't deny it. I stood up, my mind racing. Years of business negotiations had taught me one thing. Sometimes you have to lose a battle to win the war. Okay, I said finally. She blinked in surprise. Okay, I nodded. 1 month. Complete freedom. For both of us. She jumped up, hugging me tightly. Thank you, Michael. You'll see. This will be good for us. I hugged her back, my mind already forming a plan. She didn't notice my smile wasn't quite reaching my eyes. That evening, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to Rachel, my head of marketing. The second was to Jessica, our lead developer. Both were attractive, intelligent women in their 30s. Both were happily married. And both, thankfully, had a good sense of humor. So, you want us to pretend to date you? Rachel clarified. Just for a few weeks, I explained. To teach your wife a lesson? To show her what she's asking for. There was a pause. I'm in, Rachel said. But you owe me big time. Jessica agreed too, after consulting with her husband. He thinks it's hilarious, she told me. Operation Freedom was about to begin. Sarah wasted no time embracing our new arrangement. She started going out more, coming home less. I made sure to be on my phone when she was around, smiling at texts that didn't exist, making plans she could overhear. Then came the first Instagram post. Rachel and me at an exclusive restaurant. Her hand on my arm, both of us laughing. Caption: great evening with this amazing man. Sarah saw it within minutes. I heard her phone drop in the other room. The next day, Jessica posted a gym selfie with me. Best workout partner ever. Flexed biceps, red heart. Sarah started watching my social media like a hawk. She tried to be casual about it, but I caught her frowning at her phone constantly. Going out tonight? She asked one evening, trying to sound nonchalant. I adjusted my tie in the mirror. Yes, dinner with Rachel. Don't wait up. Her reflection behind me looked stricken. Rachel from work? Again. I turned, raising an eyebrow. Is that a problem? She forced a smile. No, of course not. Have fun. But her voice cracked on the last word. I spent that evening in my office. Rachel posted another photo anyway. Romantic dinner with my favorite CEO, Sparkles. When I got home, Sarah was waiting. Her eyes were red. "How was your date?" she asked. "It was nice," I said simply. "How was your evening?" She mumbled something and went to bed. The next week, Jessica and I were spotted at a gallery opening. Sarah used to love going to those with me. The photo showed Jessica admiring a painting, me standing close behind her, whispering something. Sarah didn't speak to me for 2 days after that. Then came the weekend trip. I told Sarah I had a business conference. Really, I stayed at Tom's beach house. But Rachel and Jessica took turns posting photos. Weekend getaway, water wave, living our best life, wine glass, all carefully staged, all perfectly innocent, all designed to drive Sarah crazy. It worked better than I expected. Sarah started staying home more. She painted less. She checked her phone constantly. She tried to hide it, but I could see her crumbling. One morning, I found her crying in her studio. She wiped her eyes quickly when she saw me. "Just got something in my eye," she lied. I pretended not to notice the painting she was working on. Dark colors, broken lines, a man and woman pulling apart. The next day, she tried to call off our arrangement. "Maybe this wasn't such a good idea," she suggested. I looked up from my phone, where I was pretending to text Rachel. "Really? I'm actually enjoying it." Her face fell. "You are?" I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. Rachel and Jessica are fascinating women, very mature. She flinched at the implied comparison. But, but what about us? I shrugged. "This was your idea, Sarah. Freedom, remember?" She left the room quickly. I heard her crying in the bathroom. It was killing me to hurt her like this. But sometimes lessons come with pain. The breaking point came 3 weeks into our experiment. Rachel, Jessica, and I staged a dinner in my apartment. Sarah had plans with James, but she canceled them last minute. She came home to find both women there. Music playing, wine flowing, Rachel cooking in my kitchen, Jessica lounging on our couch. Sarah stood in the doorway, frozen. "Oh, honey," I called out. "Join us." She took one look at the scene, at Rachel wearing an apron in her kitchen, at Jessica holding her favorite wine glass. Then she ran to our bedroom. I found her throwing clothes into a suitcase. "What are you doing?" I asked calmly. "I want a divorce," she sobbed. "Are you sure?" "Yes. I hate you. I hate what you've become." I leaned against the doorframe. "What I've become, or what you asked me to be." She stopped packing, her hands shaking. "This isn't what I wanted." "No." I pushed off the wall, stepping closer. "You wanted freedom, space to explore. Not like this." "Then how, Sarah? How exactly did you want this to go?" She had no answer, just tears and accusations. She left that night, staying with Ashley. The divorce papers arrived 3 days later. I signed them without argument. It was time for the final act. I asked Rachel and Jessica to record a video. They explained everything: the staged photos, the fake dates, the elaborate charade. I had it delivered to Sarah's new apartment. Then I waited. The call came at midnight. "You set me up," she accused, her voice thick with tears. "I taught you a lesson," I corrected. "By tricking me? By showing you what you were asking for." She was chewed. Yet for a moment. "I'm sorry," she whispered finally. "I know. Can we, can we try again?" I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. "No, Sarah, we can't. But I've learned. I understand now. Some lessons come too late." I heard her crying softly. "I love you, Michael. I love you too. But love isn't always enough." I ended the call gently. Then I stood at my window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Sarah was learning the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes what you think you want isn't what you need. And sometimes you don't know what you have until it's gone. The next morning, I woke up to an empty bed and a quieter apartment. Sarah's absence felt like a physical thing. Her art supplies still scattered across the guest room. half-finished paintings watching me with accusing eyes. I made coffee, strong and black, like I used to before she came into my life. Before she taught me to appreciate lattes with fancy designs. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "How are you holding up?" I didn't respond. Instead, I opened Instagram, knowing I shouldn't. Sarah had posted at 3 a.m. a black and white photo of rain-streaked windows. Caption: "Sometimes the hardest part is admitting you were wrong." Her friends had flooded the comments with support. "You're better off without him. Time to live your best life. He didn't deserve you anyway." I closed the app, feeling tired. They didn't know the whole story. Nobody did, really. Not even Sarah. The office felt like a sanctuary that morning. Numbers didn't lie. Spreadsheets didn't play games. Contracts didn't break your heart. Jessica stopped by my office around noon. "The video's been delivered," she said softly. I nodded, not looking up from my computer. "Mike," she hesitated. "Are you sure about this?" Finally, I met her concerned gaze. "About what?" "Letting her go. Maybe if you talked." I cut her off with a wave. "It's better this way." She didn't look convinced, but left anyway. That afternoon, Tom called. "Heard about the divorce," he said. "Drink tonight?" I agreed, needing the distraction. We met at our usual place, a quiet bar in Tribeca. "So," he said, settling into his scotch, "want to talk about it?" I swirled the amber liquid in my glass. "Not much to say." "Bullshit," he countered. "You orchestrated an entire charade to prove a point. And now—" I downed my drink. "And now it's over." Tom studied me carefully. "Is it?" Before I could answer, my phone lit up. Sarah's face appeared on the screen. I declined the call. "That's the third time," Tom observed. I ordered another drink. Sarah tried calling twice more that evening. Each time, I let it go to voicemail. Each time, it got harder to ignore. Finally, around midnight, a text. I watched the video. "Please, can we talk?" I stared at those words for a long time. Tom had left hours ago. The bar was nearly empty. My finger hovered over the keyboard. Instead of replying, I paid my tab and left. The rain had started again. New York looked different in the rain. Softer somehow, less certain of itself. Like Sarah's paintings of the city. I walked home, letting myself get soaked. My apartment felt hollow when I returned. Evidence of Sarah still everywhere. A coffee mug with dried paint on the rim. A sweater draped over a chair. Her favorite blanket on the couch. I grabbed a bottle of whiskey, sat in the dark, watched the city lights blur through wet windows. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Sarah. "I'm outside. Please let me in." I closed my eyes, counted to 10, opened them again. The text was still there. So was Sarah, probably standing in the rain, just like the first night she came here, excited about moving in, full of dreams and plans. I walked to the window. Sure enough, there she was, small figure on the sidewalk, looking up at my apartment, hair plastered to her face from the rain. My finger found the intercom button, hesitated, pressed. "Go home, Sarah." Her voice crackled through the speaker. "Michael, please." "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix this." "Then let me try to fix it another way." "There is no other way." "You don't mean that." But I did. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired. "Goodbye, Sarah." I released the button, watched her stand there for another 10 minutes. Finally, she turned away, disappeared into the rainy night. I poured another drink. The next day, the divorce proceedings began. Our lawyers met. Papers were filed. Assets divided. Sarah didn't fight for anything. Not the apartment. Not the art she'd created here. Not even her half of our joint accounts. Her lawyers said she just wanted it over. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt hollow. Work became my refuge. 14-hour days. Weekend meetings. Anything to stay busy. Rachel and Jessica watched me with concern. "You're working too hard," Rachel said one day. I ignored her, buried myself in contracts and acquisitions. Then came the gallery opening. Sarah's gallery opening. The invitation arrived at my office. Plain white envelope. Her distinctive handwriting. Inside a simple card. First solo exhibition, Sarah Miller. No note. No explanation. Just a date and address. I shouldn't have gone. I knew that. But curiosity won out. The gallery was in Brooklyn. Small, trendy space. Exposed brick and track lighting. I arrived late, hoping to blend in. Her paintings were everywhere. Our story told in colors and shadows. The first piece showed our meeting. Coffee stains and sketches. Warm browns and golds. Happy colors. Then they progressed, getting darker, more chaotic. The final piece stopped me cold. It showed two figures, one solid, one transparent, reaching for each other across a void, never quite touching. It's called Freedom. Her voice behind me. Soft, familiar. I didn't turn around. Interesting title. I thought you'd appreciate the irony. Finally, I faced her. She looked different, thinner, tired, but her eyes were clear. You're doing well, I said, gesturing at the crowd. 3 pieces sold already. Awkward silence stretched between us. I miss you, she whispered finally. Sarah, no, let me finish. She stepped closer. I was wrong. About everything. It's not that simple. Why not? I looked at her painting again. Because some distances can't be bridged. We could try. We did try. No, she shook her head. I tried to run away. And now I want to run back. I closed my eyes briefly. There's nowhere to run back to. She touched my arm lightly. Michael, please. I stepped back. Congratulations on the show, Sarah. Then I left. Walked out into the Brooklyn night. Tried not to hear her crying behind me. The divorce was finalized a week later. Clean break. No mess. No drama. Just signatures on paper. Ending what had started with spilled coffee. Sarah moved to California shortly after. Got a job teaching art. Started fresh. I threw myself into work. Expanded the company. Opened new offices. Life went on. But sometimes, late at night, when the rain hits my windows, I think about a young artist, sketching in a coffee shop, and I wonder if in another life, we might have found a way. But this isn't that life. And some lessons stay with you forever. Rachel still checks on me. You could call her, she suggests sometimes. But I don't, because some stories are better left ended, even if the ending hurts, even if the rain never really stops. Tom thinks I'm being stubborn. People change, he argues. People grow. Maybe they do. But timing matters. And our time had passed. Like colors fading on a canvas. Like coffee stains on sketch paper. Like rain washing away footprints. Some things are meant to be temporary. Beautiful while they last. But temporary all the same. And maybe that's okay too. 6 months after the divorce, I received an unexpected package. A canvas wrapped in brown paper. No return address, but I knew who it was from. I recognized her handwriting on the label. For a long time, I just stared at it, sitting on my desk like a time bomb. Finally, late that evening, I opened it. It was the painting from the gallery. The 2 figures reaching across the void. But something was different. The transparent figure was now solid. A note fell from the wrapping. I learned to be whole on my own. I hung it in my office. Not at home. I wasn't ready for that. But somewhere I could see it daily. A reminder of lessons learned. Life settled into a new rhythm. The company grew exponentially. We expanded to Europe. Opened offices in London and Berlin. I dated occasionally. Nothing serious. Us. Nothing that made my heart race. Nothing like spilled coffee and sketch papers. Then came the email. Subject: Thank you. From Sarah Miller. My finger hovered over delete. But curiosity won again. Dear Michael, I've started therapy. Turns out running from yourself doesn't work. I understand now what you were trying to teach me. Freedom isn't about what you can do. It's about knowing who you are. I'm sorry it took losing you to learn that. Be well, Sarah. I closed the email without responding. But something shifted that day. A weight I hadn't known I was carrying lifted slightly. Spring turned to summer. New York blazed with heat. I threw myself into a new project, a tech incubator for young artists. Tom raised his eyebrows when I told him. Interesting choice, he said carefully. I ignored his knowing look. The project took off quickly. Young creators flocked to apply. Their energy reminded me of her. But it didn't hurt anymore. 1 year after the divorce, I was in San Francisco for a conference, walking through the financial district, when I saw her, Sarah, across the street. She was with a group of students, teaching them about perspective and light. She looked good, healthy, confident, happy. She didn't see me. I didn't make myself known, just watched for a moment, then continued on my way. That evening, I got another email. I saw you today. Thank you for not saying hello. I'm not ready either, but I'm getting there. S. I smiled slightly. Type back. You look well. The students are lucky to have you. M. Short, simple, but honest. Life has a way of coming full circle. 2 years after the divorce, I was back at the daily grind. Same coffee shop where it all began. Different person now. Older. Wiser maybe. A young woman sat by the window, sketching. For a moment, my heart stopped. But it wasn't her. Just another artist, chasing dreams on paper. I ordered my coffee, careful not to spill it. Some lessons stick with you. The company continued to grow. Forbes did a profile, called me a tech visionary, featured the Art Incubator project. Sarah sent a congratulatory text. You're changing lives. I'm proud of you, even if I don't have the right to be. I responded this time. You have the right. You were part of the journey. 3 years post-divorce, Tom got married. Small ceremony in the Hamptons. Sarah was there. We both knew she would be. She designed the invitations. We were seated at different tables. But during the reception, she approached me. May I have this dance? Just like that. Simple. Direct. Like spilled coffee. I took her hand. We moved slowly to the music, neither speaking, until she said, I grew up. I know. Too late. I looked at her. Really looked. Saw the woman she'd become. Strong. Centered. Self-aware. Maybe not. Her eyes widened slightly. What does that mean? Coffee tomorrow. She smiled. That same smile that had caught me years ago. But different too. Mature. Knowing. Coffee sounds perfect. The next morning, back at the daily grind, she was already there, sketching by the window. But this time we both knew. Some spills can't be cleaned up. Some lessons can't be unlearned. Some love stories need to break before they can truly begin. She looked up as I approached. Careful with that coffee, she teased. I sat down across from her. I learned my lesson. She closed her sketchbook. So did I. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the real story begins. Not with spilled coffee, not with broken promises, but with two people who had to lose each other to find themselves and perhaps find their way back.